Good evening. County Executive, did you want to make a few comments? Or? Okay, just start. I just want to make sure. No problem. Good evening. I'm Paul Wiedefeld, the Secretary of Maryland Department of Transportation. Thank you for inviting us to provide an overview of our draft 6-year Consolidated Transportation Program, more commonly known as the CTP, which covers fiscal years 2024 to 2029. I brought with me the majority of the senior team at the Maryland Department of Transportation. To my right is the Deputy Secretary, Samantha Biddle. To her right is Ashish Salenki from the Maryland Aviation Administration, Chrissy Nizer, who heads up the Maryland Vehicle Administration, Will Pines, who heads up the State Highway Administration, and someone that doesn't need any introductions, Mark Crampton, who basically is the district engineer and does a lot of the day-to-day work here in the county. Also with us, obviously, is Joey Sagel, the new head of the Toll Authority, and with us from the Maryland Transit Administration is Tanya Nichols. So that's the team that's here today. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to visit with us at MACO, County Executive, and your staff, and a number of delegates and senators. The conference is a great opportunity to connect and understand how we can partner together to develop solutions for your local challenges. I did want to follow up on one issue that was raised at that meeting. SHA has been engaged with the Salisbury-Wacomico Metropolitan Planning Organization about a request to have SHA look into the installation of an exit from Warwick Community College to eastbound US 50. The MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, is working on preparing a traffic impact study package that it will submit to State Highway Administration, and will continue to engage with the MPO and elected officials in moving the concept forward. The Maryland Department of Transportation is committed to working in partnership and transparency with communities we're here to serve. Most importantly, MDOT will build and maintain a transportation network that provides not only physical mobility, but economic mobility to lift all Marylanders and all communities. We've made some progress, but some of the toughest challenges still lie ahead. As you know, the number one goal of the department is safety, the safety of our employees and the traveling public who use our facilities and services. MDOT is committed to Maryland's Vision Zero goal of rapidly reducing roadway fatalities to zero by 2030. And I have charged my team to take a fresh look at our regulations, policies, and capital transportation program to ensure we're removing barriers and making investments in a safer multimodal transportation system. I've also directed my team to update and upgrade the MDOT's 11-year-old Complete Streets policy, designing roadways to provide safe mobility options for all of our users. As we work to create a safe and sustainable transportation system for the future, Maryland must preserve the multi-billion-dollar investment we made in existing facilities. We're also investing in projects to support economic development, to improve access to planned growth and employment corridors. This economic access must extend beyond single occupancy drivers only as well. Another priority is transforming our transportation network to be resilient to the impacts of climate change so we can mitigate and anticipate weather-related system disruptions, especially in our vulnerable coastal communities. We're creating a transportation system that connects Marylanders to life's opportunities and work as a true multimodal system for all across a connected network of transit, road, bridges, and trails. Creating our transportation network of the future while preserving and maintaining the existing services and our multi-billion-dollar infrastructure will take tremendous investment. Our transportation network must also compete economically on a regional, national, and global level. Frankly, we need to invest a level that is greater than the current resources provide. As you know, our key funding source, or as many of you may know, our key funding source is the Transportation Trust Fund. There are many funding pressures on the trust fund that impact our bottom line, such as historic inflation impacting labor and materials, which I'm sure the county is also experiencing. The existing funding commitments that we have agreed to do, such as the highway maintenance and bridge renovations and replacements across the state. We're also impacted by the sustainability of the motor fuel tax, which represents a little over 20% of our revenue sources, with more motor fuel efficient vehicles and the introduction of electric vehicles. Obviously, that's driving that percentage down. And the reduction of vehicle titling taxes as people keep their vehicles longer. As a result of all these pressures, we're going to have a difficulty delivering the needs and desires of today's users, and as well as meeting the economic goals of the future. It is true that we have an historic opportunity to compete for federal funding through the provisions of the bipartisan infrastructure law, especially within the menu of discretionary grants available. So we get formula dollars and we get discretionary dollars. But even this opportunity carries pressures for our budget because we must have the state funding available to pull down those federal dollars. All this is evident in the draft fiscal year 24-29 CTP that we're presenting today, which totals about $21.2 billion and includes all the projects from the final fiscal year 23-28 last year's CTP. It's a reality that our CTP is not fully funded. Starting next year, fiscal year 25, which starts July 1st for us, we face a budget shortfall of roughly $100 million. And without being addressed, that shortfall will grow quickly in subsequent years. And that funding gap is just to address maintaining current projects and services. This overall shortfall does not yet include the additional investments we need to deliver to better the transportation system for the people of Maryland want and deserve. In the past, MDOT would have made the decisions on its own regarding where additional funding is spent or where previously programmed projects would be delayed or deleted to address the shortfall. I chose a different path because there needs to be a need to be more transparent in the funding decisions we made for the state's capital program. Decisions about how we prioritize our projects should be based on our shared values and priorities. They also need to be part of a public discussion and done in partnership with our many, many stakeholders. I also know that the county counts on the highway user revenues and the locally operated transit grants to balance their budgets and to preserve and build your local transportation infrastructure. After remaining unchanged for many years, we have updated the allocation formula to ensure that the distribution of operating funds to the locally operated transit system is transparent, consistent, and equitable. And I also recognize and emphasize that you face a decreased highway user revenue funds in the out years, similar to the pressures that we're facing. This is why the work of the Maryland Commission on Transportation Revenue and Infrastructure Needs is critical. The commission, which was created by legislation from this past legislative session, will examine the Transportation Trust Fund's revenues and look for opportunities to modernize the Maryland Department of Transportation and the state's transportation system as a whole. The diverse commission includes public officials, business leaders, advocates, and several transportation representatives as members, such as myself and Chrissy Nizer. The commission will have an interim report with some recommendations to the governor by January 1st of 24, with their final report due in January 25. I'll hold for questions if I may now, and I'll have the rest of the department present their portion of the capital program, if I could. And I'll start with Will Pines, the head of the State Highway Administration. Will?
Well, thank you, Paul, and good evening, County Executive, County Council members, and distinguished state representatives. I'm Will Pines. It's great to be here with you again this year, this time leading the State Highway team. I'm just a few months in, but I'm really excited about SHA's future. Under my leadership, SHA will continue to advance infrastructure projects that will connect Marylanders to jobs and economic opportunities. Building and maintaining a safe, multimodal transportation system for all users that is safe, equitable, and balanced, that's our goal. That means we're going to be able to reimagine how our highway network supports the needs of our communities. We will be putting a greater focus on safety, and that's safety statewide, because one life lost is one too many. So we will hone in on asset, work zone, and vulnerable user safety. This spring, SHA released Maryland's first Pedestrian Safety Action Plan, or what we refer to as the PSAP. It's a new data-driven tool to enhance pedestrian and bicycle safety for communities across the state. We are programming nearly $100 million to deliver PSAP projects, working with a new active transportation team and in our district offices. We are also taking a fresh look at organizational efficiency. I've asked the SHA team to focus on project delivery, permit approvals, and procurement timelines to look at opportunities to streamline the process while maintaining ethics and good business. This will focus both on delivering SHA projects faster and conducting timely reviews and support for county and developer projects and permits. We realize there are challenges ahead, but this doesn't mean our goals have changed. We will continue to improve safety, accessibility, mobility, and maintain a state of good repair. We have to be poised to leverage every available federal dollar to deliver as much as we can. This includes pursuing multiple federal grant opportunities. We also will continue working with you to deliver local projects. Partnership with our local governments and the community is the key to all of our successes. I'd like now to highlight a few of SHA's projects and accomplishments over the last year. SHA has initiated a sidewalk improvement project focused on pedestrian safety along the 1.3-mile stretch on US 13 between Center Road and Dagsboro Road in Salisbury. Currently, there are no sidewalks in that area, forcing walkers to use the grass adjacent to the travel lanes. The project scope includes constructing 5-foot wide sidewalks along both sides of the road, pedestrian activated signals, crosswalks, and stormwater management facilities to manage water runoff. The design phase is expected to be completed by 2025. And also in Salisbury is the US 13 business bridge replacement over the east branch of the Wicomico River, funded for $13.5 million. Construction is expected to begin in 2024, and this project will address the deteriorated condition of the existing bridge to help keep Maryland's transportation system in a state of good repair. The original timber bridge, constructed in 1937, has a posted weight restriction limiting commercial vehicle access and is too narrow for ADA-compliant sidewalks. The new bridge will remove this restriction and improve pedestrian and bicycle access in the Riverwalk area of downtown Salisbury, enhancing safety and mobility. Thank you for allowing me to highlight the State Highway Administration's top priorities in this draft CTP. And now I'd like to turn it over to Joey with the MDTA.
Great. Thank you very much, Will. And good evening, everyone, County Executive, Council members, distinguished elected officials. I'm Joey Sagal, and I was most recently named Executive Director of the Maryland Transportation Authority in early August, or the MDTA as affectionately we refer to it as. The MDTA is financed solely by toll revenue and is the independent state agency that finances, owns, operates, preserves, and secures Maryland's 8 toll facilities. 4 signature bridges, 2 underwater tunnels, 2 highway turnpikes in Maryland. We're investing those toll dollars right back into our world-class infrastructure for all Marylanders. A couple of those projects that are going on, notably, the Chesapeake Bay Crossing Study, Tier 2, National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, is a $28 million MDTA-funded study. This Tier 2 study that is currently ongoing is analyzing alternatives for providing adequate capacity and access to improve travel reliability, mobility, and safety across the Chesapeake Bay and along the US 5301 corridor. Our public engagement objective for the Tier 2 study is to establish a fair and an equitable study process that leads to equitable project outcomes. This is a federally required study in the Tier 2. We're focusing on the selected corridor alternative, or Corridor 7 is what we refer to it as, the existing footprint. That was identified through the completion of our Tier 1 study. Corridor 7 is 2 miles wide, includes the site of the existing Bay Bridge, as well as the 22-mile length corridor. We've held numerous public engagement activities, such as community events, throughout all the summer of 2023, most recently, even as recent as last week in Kent Island. Open community discussions that are going on, and we're talking about transit, bike, pedestrian. These are listening meetings. They're in person, as well as we've had online public meetings virtually as well this month. We've heard that the citizens of Maryland are frustrated with congestion at the Bay Bridge and want relief from traffic jams that occur year-round. To address their concerns, we plan to share alternatives with the public in 2024, followed by MDTA's recommended preferred alternative in 2025. And then in the conclusion of the Tier 2 study, We're expecting that to be in the winter of 2026 into calendar year 2027. We encourage input and comment. Details about this study and additional opportunities to provide that input are online, and we encourage those to visit baycrossingstudy.com. So I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak with you today, and now I'd like to turn it over to my friends at the Maryland Transit Administration.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Nichols, Deputy Director for the Office of Local Transit Support for the Maryland Transit Administration. Can you hear me okay? Do I need to move that? Yes? Better? There we go. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the MTA is doing to support the frequent, reliable, and easy-to-use transit throughout Maryland. As you know, public transportation is essential to ensuring economic and social mobility, addressing the climate change crisis and need of reductions in carbon emissions, as well as reducing congestion and promoting safer and healthier streets for our entire region. Maryland's investment in new transit infrastructure and maintaining our system in a state of good repair will make a difference for people's lives throughout the state. Here on the Eastern Shore, we continue to focus on supporting all our locally operated transit systems who are critical partners in providing transit throughout the state. MTA makes a significant investment in transit in Wacomico County, providing nearly $3.8 million in operating and capital grants to support local transit operations provided by Shore Transit. Of the $3.8 million, more than $2.5 million is the operating budget and more than $1.3 million for the capital budget. These grants provide funding for preventative maintenance, 2 small buses, and 2 medium-duty buses. Lastly, as the Secretary mentioned, the agency has recently undertaken a comprehensive review of the LOT's operating funding allocation. I am pleased to report, beginning in fiscal year 2025, funding will be adjusted so that the allocation distributions are more equitable and responsive to changes in local jurisdictions' investment in transit service. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this important work underway at the Maryland Transit Administration. I would like to now turn it over to Chrissy Nizer at the Maryland Vehicle Administration.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. Chrissy Nizer, MBA Administrator. Customer service has obviously been a cornerstone of everything we do at MBA, but we've been fortunate over the last several years to have a significant investment in our IT infrastructure, a new modernization project called Customer Connect, which really enables us to deliver that premier customer service to every corner of the state. Gone are the days where you would need to bring that book or your lunch when you came to visit the MBA. As a matter of fact, last fiscal year, our wait time at the nearby Salisbury branch office was under 7 minutes, a really impressive accomplishment by the team. But we're already planning for the next decade and what enhancements we want to make moving forward. In fact, many of our branches have turned into a one-stop shop environment for government services so that citizens can take advantage of those at a convenient location. And I think Salisbury is a perfect example of how that's working really successfully. And so right in Salisbury, we have Maryland birth certificate services if you need that in order to get your ID card or your driver's license. We also partner with Department of Natural Resources, so if you need a hunting or fishing license, you can take advantage of those DNR services right at that location. We also have a Veterans Benefit Office. I'm proud to say that there's been over 13,000 individuals who have benefited from having that office right within the community in Salisbury, and so it's a wonderful partnership. New this year, as the move towards electric vehicles, we're going to have 2 electric vehicle charging stations. The construction is nearing complete, and they will be operational by the end of October. But we know that accessibility doesn't end at our branch offices, and so we continue to add new services as well as to encourage all of our customers to sign up for a My MBA account. That will give you access to all of your MBA-related transactions. Last year, customers completed transactions outside of a branch office through our alternative service delivery 75% of the time, which is a pretty remarkable number. And we also continue our outreach efforts to reach all members of the community, and that includes our reentry services at the Salisbury Detention Center and the unhoused population at Halo Homeless, Homes for Hope, and Go-Getters. Our outreach team works really hard with these organizations to make sure that individuals have access to ID services, which hopefully enable them to move forward with their lives. Additionally, MBA and its partners remain committed to highway safety, as the Secretary and Will have both discussed, and really reaching that Vision Zero goal that we all want. Last year, unfortunately, we lost 11 people in Wacomico County, but so far this year, we've already lost 10. Obviously, that's an unacceptable increase, and we really want to come together and find those creative solutions to how we can reduce those numbers and ultimately reach zero. We know the causes as we look at the crashes are really those same things which are truly avoidable. People driving too fast, lack of wearing seat belts, impaired driving, as well as distraction. And so by coming together, we can help solve those issues. Earlier this month, Governor Moore announced $240,000 in highway safety grant funding, and that comes right here to the county. That includes the Sheriff's Office, Salisbury and Fruitland Police Departments, the Maryland Soybean Board, and the community college. And so that will be helpful in our highway safety efforts. But we also want to continue to encourage local jurisdictions to develop your own safety plan. Salisbury, the city of Salisbury is a great example of that, where they've really put together a good plan that they're actively working on and focused on their safety related issues. We've also launched a new crash dashboard, which has fatality data updated real time. It's a great tool for local jurisdictions to be able to analyze your data, figure out where the challenges are, and certainly at the Highway Safety Office, we stand ready to help you in any way we possibly can as we work together to find new solutions. In closing, I just want to recognize our incredible team. They have achieved some remarkable results, and none of these would be possible without each and every one of them. And with that, I will turn it over to Ashish to talk about MAA.
Thank you, Chrissy. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening, and I have the pleasure of representing the Maryland Aviation Administration. We often say in aviation, we touch upon lots of places and lots of destinations, and in that case, we are global. And in this case, for us, we reach out not just internationally, but also nationwide. I wanted to talk a little bit about BWI Airport, BWI Marshall Airport, and what we have progressed for in the last year, and of course what we have done with the pandemic and growing out of the pandemic itself. I wanted to also emphasize what our focus is with respects to all of our airports, and not just BWI Marshall, but Salisbury Regional and all of our other regional airports in the state. They generate jobs. They connect our residents. They also provide a connection for our businesses to the economies and where our traveling public want to go. At BWI Marshall, that is very evident in the fact that we have an economic impact over $9 billion annually. Now, that translates to a very significant impact for us, but to give you another perspective, pre-pandemic, we were around 27 million passengers traveled. Post-pandemic, today, we're nearly 90% of that number. So the trajectory is in the positive direction. We're looking well. We're growing. Our demand is there at BWI Marshall. Another measurement that we use at the airport is our seat capacity. To give you an idea, the seat capacity at BWI Marshall over last year has grown 18%. That's the capacity side. So our demand side, the people wanting to travel is there. Now we're being able to add the airline flights and the seats for the needs. And another measurement that we often use is that 18% growth from 1 year is actually 4% higher than pre-pandemic numbers. So we're putting in the capacity for the demand of our customers that want to travel. I want to share with you now a few updates on our capital program. Certainly at BWI Marshall, the capital program is advancing in the millions of dollars, and their focus, again, is on passenger demand, providing that customer service experience, providing that easy come, easy go experience. But also across the state, we have investments across our regional airports. And we have 34 public use airports where we provide a statewide aviation grant program. In fiscal 24, we're providing $2.8 million in funding assistance. This funding goes towards runways, taxiways, and apron types of safety improvements. And specifically here at Salisbury Regional, we're pleased to support their runway extension project and the federal support to your airport in the tune of about $556,000 of statewide aviation grant funds. Now, it's my pleasure to turn it back over to Secretary Wiedefeld.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you all for your attention and for joining us today as we go through the capital program. We'd be glad to take any questions or comments that you may have.
Good evening, Mr. Secretary and MDOT and your team. Happy to be here tonight to listen to your presentation. I represent Talbot, Dorchester, Caroline, and Wycomico, so you'll see me 3 more times, and I'm looking forward to that. You and your department are one of the most important engagements that we have on a countywide level that have a real impact on people's lives, and we thank you for the seriousness with which you bring your department here and solve those problems. I will say, Chrissy Nizer, I'm not going to go without acknowledging you. You're a rock star in our department. We, over the 9 years I've been in office, have counted on you to get answers and constituent service, and you set the standard, and thank you for that. There are 2 issues that I'd like to just bring up for the purpose of just bringing it forward to our district engineer, Crampton. So the first, when I started 9 years ago, we have Old Railroad Road and Route 50. Donnie Drewer was the engineer at the time. And he heard me speak at a meeting just like this and turned that conversation into real change in how that intersection on Route 50 was realigned and corrected to make it safer, if you will. I thanked Mr. Drewer, Donnie Drewer, for doing that because it showed some serious care for the safety. I know that there are some changes that are being discussed, and I would only say this, is that I think safety's first. And whatever we're doing to make that safe, at the same time being responsive to the constituents that are going to be affected by that, I think that the solution will be well served. But please keep our office aware of what's going on, so it's a public process. To the extent I can be involved, I'd like to do that. There is one other project that relates to Barron Creek. Again, when I was elected early in my 9-year career, that dam washed out and the road went away. I'll just alert you to the fact that of the meetings that I've had in 9 years where you had public input, the Mardello Springs Fire Department was full of people that had interest in that, both coming and going. And so whatever it is you do there, it's not my role necessarily to dictate or demand what that looks like, but rather make sure that the citizens are aware of what's going on to maximize public input on that project. And I would very much want to be part of that solution. So I'll close by saying thank you very much. We do appreciate, Mr. Crampton, your leadership on the shore, and I'll say that 3 more times over the next meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening to the MDOT team. Mr. Secretary, I want to thank you for allowing the shore, Wycomico and Worcester counties, to be your first stops on your statewide transportation tour. Also wanted to acknowledge and thank the Wycomico County Executive and her team and the council for really preparing for this meeting and having priorities set forth. And the video that we saw earlier really was one of the best summaries I've ever seen. We come to you as a delegation knowing that we have to put safety first. And I appreciate the fact that when we bring specific issues to you, whether it's an intersection, a roadway that we're having some challenges, that the way we try to approach it as a delegation is to bring those safety concerns to you. I know sometimes our constituents want an immediate solution and might immediately call for a signal, but we know that sometimes there are other measures that can also address immediate safety concerns. So one request I have tonight is that when we have those conversations, which are very sensitive to our constituents, that we are hearing them on the safety issues and working with them so that part of it could be perhaps an awareness that there might be other measures we can take, as you did, I pointed out in other parts of my district, whether it's immediate lighting or markings that can also bring safety to bear. I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight what I believe is the top priority for Wycomico County, which is stated in the information that's been shared with you, and it is the Salisbury Ocean City Wycomico Regional Airport. And I say the full name because the regional is so important to us. So not only the runway extension that we're all in agreement to moving forward with, But what we're all also very excited about is the Airport Maintenance Technicians Program and the partners we have with that, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, the airport, Piedmont Airlines, the Greater Salisbury community, also the other counties are represented in that partnership as well. So I guess my request would be that, given that we're speaking with a clear voice from Wicomico County on that as a priority, is to ask for the secretaries, the departments, the Maryland Aviation Administration's continued and full support for that as a priority. So I asked for that request, and I thank you for, again, making the extra effort.
Thanks, Senator. As you may know, I had the pleasure of going out there today with Tony. I have an aviation background. Yeah, I mean, just the partnership there, met with Piedmont as well. You can see it's extremely strong. It's a great opportunity. It's a huge need in the aviation industry right now to have that talent being trained and ready to go. So I think it's a great opportunity. So I'll continue to work directly with them as well.
And in closing, I also would like to join my colleagues, the delegation, as well as Wicomico County team in thanking you for prioritizing our constituent requests. Oftentimes, the people that call us, by the time they call us, they're very frustrated. And the fact, whether it's MVA or SHA or across the board, there's not only the responsiveness, but the follow-through has been noted and appreciated. Thank you.
Secretary, yes, my name is Jim Atkins, and I live in Mardell Springs. I want to first apologize for reading this, but I wanted to make sure my facts were straight and that I didn't get off track. So instead of speaking to you, which is what I would like to do, I'm going to read to you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm speaking to you tonight concerning Bering Creek Road in Mardell Springs, which is one of the items on the county priority list. Just brief history, Bering Creek Road was washed out in July of 2016 after an extremely heavy rainfall. The floodgates were not able to be opened in time to prevent the damage to the road. In 2016, estimates from the county were that it would cost $200,000 to $400,000 to replace the road only. If they replaced the dam and restored it to its original form, it would be $2 million in 2016. A local hearing was held in Mardella Firehouse, which Delegate Adams just mentioned. And approximately 75% of the attendees were in favor of replacing the mill pond and the road. Although their reasons weren't that it was important, but rather that it was a convenient shortcut and a historical site. The mill pond was there, but the mill, which created the mill pond, had been gone for 50 years. Very few people at that meeting even remember the mill. I do because I grew up next to it. It's been gone for 50 years. History has been gone. A meeting of county officials and state officials, such as the Department of Agriculture, Department of Environment, Department of Natural Sources, and other departments, held a meeting at that site. And the consensus at that time was it was better not to replace the road due to environmental concerns. In 2018, the county council approved $850,000 for reconstruction of Bering Creek Road. That year, there were test borings, surveys, and apparently architectural plans and drawings performed to the amount of $253,000. Nothing ever happened with those drawings and plans after spending $253,000. Now we come to this year, 2023. The newly elected county executive held a tour with members of the outgoing Hogan administration at the site of the road washout. Why were there meetings with officials that were no longer going to be in office in 2 more months when Governor Moore took over the state? On June 7th, a letter from the executive to the secretary addressed to Wycomico County Priority Letter is forwarding, requesting assistance from the state to identify a long-term solution for this road. The county requested funding for retaining professional consulting, engineering services, design alternatives, and planning level cost estimates. Sounds like the $253,000 that we already spent was a waste of money, because now we're asking the state to come in and do the same thing. Now I'd like to take a moment and address some of the reasons that have been given why this road needs to be replaced. First reason you hear is school bus traffic. There is and has not been in the past 25 years that I can speak of a school bus on that road. There was a 16,000-pound weight limit on that road. School buses did not come across that road. And if the road is necessary for school buses, why haven't the superintendents of the Board of Education been fighting about getting the road replaced? They haven't been fighting, so apparently they don't need it. Fire, police, and EMS. First of all, there are only 2 houses on that road. One of them is mine. Checking Google Maps and MapQuest, if you travel from the intersection of Route 50 and Barron Creek Road to the Mardella High School by way of Route 50, it takes 4 minutes to travel 2 miles. If you travel Barron Creek Road, it's only a mile, but it takes 5 minutes. So it's a little shorter, but it takes longer. So that kind of eliminates in my mind the police agencies and EMS and fire. The police agencies and fire chiefs have not been pressuring the county to replace the road. So apparently it's not important to them to respond to the road. Historically, as I stated, there's no history here. As previously stated, the mill's been gone for over 50 years. No one tried to save the mill when it was falling down. The mill pond was just that, a pond. There are thousands of ponds in the state. Is it worth $4 to $6 million to put a pond back? My thoughts on why this road should not be replaced are, it serves no purpose other than it was there once, because some people would like to have it back. Neither of the 2 residences on the road would like to have it back. They're satisfied with it being gone for the past 8 years. The $2 million replacement estimate was 8 years ago. What would that cost now? Not only with the inflation of the dollar amount, but for the 8 additional years of deterioration and environmental impact has happened on that road. The pond is now pretty much grown up with 6 to 8 foot pine trees. Pond isn't there. It's gone. If this road is replaced, then it leads to a problem for the State Highway Administration, because such as they're having to do at Old Railroad and Route 50, they will have to do at Barron Creek Road and Route 50 because of the traffic patterns, the increased traffic, and an agriculture business that has increased the commercial truck traffic at that location. Let me close by saying this. The governor at the Mako Summer Conference on August the 19th, 1 month ago tonight, stated we are facing budget shortfalls. The secretary of MDOT stated in his report, which we're looking at tonight, that we are facing a $2 billion shortfall. The county has had the money in the disparity fund since 2016 to cover the cost of repairing this road. That fund has increased to where they now have approximately $84 million in their disparities fund. And then they have the nerve to ask the state to fund a project on a county road that they could have fixed 8 years ago. My thoughts to you is that you need to stay away from this project. It's not necessary. With budget shortfalls and looking at cutting costs, why spend money on unnecessary roads? In my opinion, you're putting yourself in a no-win situation. If you approve the money and the project moves forward, the county takes credit. They got the road replaced. They made everybody happy. If you deny the funding, then the county blames the state on the road not being replaced while they go around to the county constituents and say, we did everything we could, but the state said no. Well, I'm asking you, with the state of the state and the state of the county, we don't need to spend $4 to $6 million on a road that serves no economic development, will only create safety problems and make the State Highway Administration spend more money. Cut the losses. I don't think you need to have a study on the road. I think if the right people went down there and looked at the road and saw it, they would say, we don't need a study. You don't need this road. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those very thoughtful comments. And if you could, if you wouldn't mind leaving me that you're written, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, thank you so much for all coming out tonight and taking the time out of your daily lives to do this. Thank you so much.